You can come with me if you want, unless you're scared.
And as soon as I pop out to shoot, it all goes black.
The government never wanted these stories out in the open. Not the missions buried under classified documents, not the trauma carried home in silence, and definitely not the memories of a man who walked through war zones the world pretends don't exist. For years, Shawn Ryan lived in the shadows, first as a Navy SEAL, then as a CIA contractor, surviving moments that change people forever. Most men who live through what he did disappear. They stay silent. They break. Some never return at all. But one day, a man trained to keep the most dangerous secrets suddenly stepped into the spotlight. Not to call out the government, not to expose intelligence operations, but to give a voice to people who had been silenced by the same darkness he once lived in. And that's how the world met Shawn Ryan, the quiet professional who became one of the most trusted truth-tellers on YouTube. But to understand how a guy built like a modern-day warrior turned into a master storyteller, we need to go all the way back. Before the cameras, before the interviews, before YouTube even mattered. Back to when Shawn Ryan was just another young man stepping into a world that would break most people, but ended up shaping him into someone extraordinary. Shawn Ryan's story doesn't start with fame, money, or ambition. It starts with service. From a young age, he felt the pull to do something more, something harder, something that mattered. That drive pushed him toward one of the most brutal military pipelines on Earth, the U.S. Navy SEALs. He made it through, not just barely, with the kind of discipline and grit that sets the elite apart. Assigned to SEAL Team 2 and SEAL Team 8, Shawn found himself in the middle of missions that most people will never hear about. Real war, real danger, real consequences. Recon missions in hostile regions, direct action raids under the cover of darkness, high-stakes counter-terrorism operations, all of it shaped him into someone who could stay calm while the world burned around him. From these years, Shawn learned things no classroom could ever teach. How to read danger before it happens. How to stay emotionally steady under pressure that would shatter most people. How to think clearly when chaos takes over. How to understand people in ways that go far beyond words. But the story doesn't stop when the uniform comes off. If anything, it gets darker. Instead of transitioning into quiet civilian life, Shawn moved deeper into the shadows, becoming a CIA Global Response Staff contractor. This part of his life was even more secretive. No cameras, no news coverage, no recognition, just real threats in places where U.S. involvement is denied, where enemies hid in plain sight, and where one wrong step could cost lives. He protected CYA personnel, collected intelligence, moved through hostile countries, and lived through tension that never fully goes away. When he eventually left, he didn't bring trophies home. He brought memories, some inspiring, some traumatic, all unforgettable. These experiences later became the foundation of everything he built. But first, Shawn needed to find a new mission. After leaving government work, he launched Vigiliance Elite, a tactical training company teaching firearms mastery, situational awareness, mental resilience, and survival mindset. He became an instructor, a mentor, and a real voice for veterans drowning in PTSD and invisible wounds most of the world doesn't understand. And in the middle of all that, between the training, the advocacy, and the silent battles inside him, a new idea began forming, one that would change his entire life. The turning point wasn't a dramatic firefight or a life-or-death mission. It was a quiet realization. Shawn saw an entire community, veterans, intelligence officers, whistleblowers, survivors, who had stories the world needed to hear, but no platform to tell them. Mainstream media wouldn't touch these stories. Politicians wouldn't acknowledge them. Society didn't understand them. So Shawn decided to build the platform himself. No scripts, no filters, no corporate pressure. Just long, raw, honest conversations with real people who had lived through real trauma, real corruption, real moral challenges, and real human moments. This idea became the Shawn Ryan Show, and it was unlike anything on YouTube. While other creators chased algorithms and trends, Shawn built a space for truth, a place to talk about the things nobody else had the courage to bring up, a place where guests weren't performing. They were finally being understood. That moment, that quiet choice to start a podcast, changed everything. Shawn didn't explode onto YouTube overnight. He started small, with videos based on what he knew best: training, tactics, firearms, mindset. These videos were clean, calm, and professional. No theatrics, no ego. Just a dude who knew what he was talking about, and audiences appreciated that. Then came the interviews, and this is where things got interesting. Shawn wasn't just hosting guests. He was creating a safe space. Former CIA officers, special operations veterans, whistleblowers, trauma survivors, and everyday people with extraordinary stories sat across from him and opened up in a way they never had before. Why? Because Shawn knew when to speak and when to stay silent. He knew when a guest needed space to process something heavy. He understood the emotional weight behind certain memories. He recognized trauma, not because he studied it, but because he lived through it. While the rest of the internet chopped content into fast-paced, attention-grabbing clips, Shawn went in the opposite direction. He embraced long-form storytelling, hours of honest conversation that felt more like therapy sessions than interviews. As his show grew, so did the production quality. Cinematic lighting, clean audio, multiple camera angles, a calm studio environment that made guests feel safe. It didn't look like YouTube. It looked like a documentary. And then the momentum kicked in. Episode after episode, the comments poured in. This is real. This helped me heal. No one else does interviews like this. Shawn wasn't chasing fame. He was chasing truth. And ironically, that's what made him blow up faster than anyone expected. At his peak, Shawn Ryan became one of the most trusted interviewers in the world of military, intelligence, and deep human storytelling. Big-name guests who had never spoken publicly before ended up in his studio. People came to him not to promote something, but because they trusted him. They shared classified experiences, emotional trauma, failures, regrets, lessons, victories, and truths that had been buried for decades. Shawn guided them through it with a level of emotional intelligence that felt almost surgical. He didn't interrupt. He didn't sensationalize. He didn't dumb anything down. He respected every word. Some guests cried. Some trembled. Some stared at the wall for long, heavy moments. And Shawn let them. That skill, knowing when silence is more powerful than speech, is rare. And it made his show unforgettable. By this point, Shawn didn't just have a YouTube channel. He had a movement, a community, a platform for truth in a world built on noise. Shawn Ryan didn't become a YouTube giant by accident. His rise wasn't luck. It wasn't a trend. It wasn't a fluke. It was discipline, purpose, authenticity, and decades of real-world experience forged under unimaginable pressure. Everything he learned, from Navy SEAL missions to CIA operations to teaching, mentoring, and overcoming trauma, shaped the show we see today. He didn't chase fame. He built trust. He didn't create content. He created connection. He didn't follow trends. He followed truth. And that's why Shawn Ryan is a genius. Not because of numbers, not because of algorithms, but because he built something real in a world full of fake. He didn't just build a platform, he built a legacy. One interview, one story, one truth at a time. If you liked this story, stay tuned for the next one, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.